So I thought a good point to start would be from growing up in Herrliberg and the barn, right? So can you tell me a little bit about growing up in Herrliberg and the barn that you had?
Yeah, I'm here right now, at my parents' house, and it's really nice. I really like the beer, and we have they bought it in like 2000. We had a really great deal, and it has a really nice barn next to the house. And my father always was kind of a handyman, like does things around the house and stuff. And we have a little shop with a lot of tools. And when I was small, I always wanted to build things, and my father always told me, "Ah, you can't touch that saw or that thing because it's too dangerous." And at some point, I was like, "I'm gonna, I'm gonna take this one because it takes way too long to do this by hand." Um, and yeah, that's how like my craftsman journey started, I guess.
Cool. Tell me a little bit more about your dad's influence. What kind of projects was he working on? Like he was just doing it as a hobby too?
Yeah, he like always built like we always had chicken coops and stuff like that and improvements around the house. Once my mom went with my brother and me to to holidays to Spain or something for 2 weeks, and that was basically just to get us out of the house to make some renovations on the floor and stuff. So my dad always did a lot of stuff himself, also like gardening. My mom as well, more like of the handiwork went to my father's territory. And yeah, I'm really thankful that he like showed me some of the way that everything that he knows. And now it's really cool because like last year we did the deck together, and now I can show him how to do certain things. So it's kind of a dynamic change, but it was really nice to to get to do this with my dad, and he was really pleased with what we did and the product in the end. And I think he's proud when we do something where he also can learn from me. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like a full circle moment. That's cool. Do you have any memories of one of the earlier projects where maybe you were a kid and you watched your dad build something?
Hmm. Yeah, like we a couple of years ago when I was like maybe 14 or something, we redid some of the barn, like the roof and stuff, and a friend of my dad's who was a carpenter still is, just did that with us. Like it was spring break, and I had 2 weeks off, and I could help him out a little bit. And I remember my father cut himself in the leg with the saw there. So that's the distinct memory that I have to my dad and tools and filming stuff. But yeah, no, it's just like such a natural thing, and always there. My dad building things that it's not one distinct memory that stands out. It just always was like that.
Cool, cool. All right, and then let's talk a bit about your first project, the Adirondack chair that you built. How did you come about building that? Like, why that type of chair?
Yeah, those are nice. My parents, when we were, I think like 2013, maybe 11, I was maybe 11, something like this. We were in Canada for the summer, and on every porch there are those bear chairs or Adirondack chairs, and they really liked them, and they bought two of them and let them be shipped to Switzerland. Um, and a couple of years later, I don't know why, but I was like, oh, I want to build something. And I saw that thing and I took the measurements of it and just basically copied it. And the chair was good enough. So people were like, oh, I want one of those too. And so I did a couple more of them. And yeah, in the end, I made like 15 or 20 of them and sold them. And that was kind of like my early stage of really making a product and selling it. But also what I learned is like if you don't really, because I had no idea what I was doing at the time, I just did it. And if you don't really know what you're doing, it comes up with a lot of anxiety once you sell a product for a real price, because you're maybe those people come back and are like, ah, it's broken or whatever. And yeah, that like maybe hesitant after that to do more of that stuff. So I usually at the moment don't do things just for any random people, just for friends. But also that comes with anxiety because I don't really like to make a prize for friends or family because it's like, yeah, feels weird to charge somebody that know that well for something, but yeah,
So
it's
you're
how it
doing it
is.
more out of a place of passion, and the commercial
Yeah,
aspect is hard for you to transition into.
yeah.
That's cool.
The
I mean, like that with that grounding, I think it's definitely it's people admire that. Like, I mean, I've bought a piece from you, right? And I love it, and like it's beautiful, and it's also I think it's a privilege to be able to buy something from someone that doesn't create so much, like right commercially, like right. So it's even makes it even more special. But let's go back to the chairs for a bit. So what was the process like of actually building that first, let's call it prototype or first experience? Did your dad help you? Did you go to the internet to find schemas, or what does that look like?
No, I just took the chair that stands right out here and took the measurements, made like a um sh schablone, like a
Like a
uh
drawing?
no, like on paper.
Okay. I guess, yeah, looking at the form of that chair, I was like kind of researching a little bit. I think also the person that first created it was a hobbyist too. I don't think he was a commercial wood maker.
Okay.
It became really popular because I think the original one was made out of 9 pieces that you could just put together. Um, I mean, I've seen these chairs. I didn't know what they were called, and also now it was cool to dive into the history of them and stuff. And his friend then started selling them for $4. Very, very cool story.
Well, okay. I did more than that.
Yeah, this was back in, I think, I don't know what year is. I think it was not, so $4 was obviously worth a lot more then. Nice. And then let's go. So you built one. Your parents, friends wanted to buy them. Then and you sold a few. What was that? We were talking about the feeling about selling your first product, the worry about people coming back and so on. But then you managed to sell a few that you were able to buy a car from the money that you sold it with, like, right? Or is that you
Yeah, it
started making
was an
product?
expensive car, but it was my first car.
That's cool. But what was that feeling like? That you're like, okay, I actually was this the point for you where you said, "Hey, I could actually make a living out of something that I love," or was it before that?
No, I always made a living. Like my first apprenticeship was as a farmer. I really liked doing that. I made not a lot, but I made money after that. And I always choose to do things that I like rather than that make a lot of money with. I guess money's cool, but I wanna be happy during the day as well.
Yeah, that's cool. Where did you get that from? Is it something from your family that you got?
Um, I guess growing up here, like in this kind of environment, nobody ever thought like of doing that thing, like going after something they like instead of like I remember the conversation I had with a little kid once, like I was a kid too, in school, and I was like, "What do you want to be?" And he was like a dentist. Well, why a dentist? And it was just like, yeah, because my dentist drives a Porsche. That was never like the mentality I brought to when it comes to choosing profession, I guess. And I always wanted to do something with my hands because that's where like my talent lies and where I like to be. So yeah, I went into blue collar jobs.
Nice. So first apprenticeship was as a farmer, and then the second one more recently was in woodwork, right? How was that transition? Why did you start as a farmer and then transition into woodwork?
Well, I don't know, you probably know the system here, but in Switzerland you either do apprenticeship when you're like 15, 16, or you go to um gymnasium. And I wanted to do an apprenticeship, but didn't really know what. And my parents, who always were very supportive, were like, "You really like to do this farming stuff because you're always with the neighbors and you like to be there. So you should probably do that because even if it doesn't work out, we live in a country where you don't have to fix it yourself on something when you're 15. You can do something else when you're 20 or even 30. So do something you like now." And yeah, did as a farmer was nice. But it's also a lot of work, um, which I'm not against, but I like to go on a holiday or something like this.
Yeah, I guess, and it's outdoor work too. It could be like
Yeah, I
it's
love
definitely,
that.
yeah. And then what was the apprenticeship in woodwork like? What was the that transition like? I'm sure it wasn't easy either, right? It's probably was pretty challenging.
I don't know. Now I was like, I was a bit older, a bit more mature, I guess, or not. I don't know. But um, and I think farming gave me a really good base for any kind of manual labor that you're about to do because you really learn. First of all, I never had that mentality, which I see in a lot of young apprentices now. Now that I'm kind of starting to um, take young apprentice with me on a construction site or something. Like a lot of young apprentices who are there a year or just starting out are like, we can't do it. It's not possible or something with very basic things. Like I can't reach it. So then go get a ladder, you know. But that mentality hasn't really set in of this is the job. It has to be done. I don't really care how, as long as you're safe. And I kind of think that that was a really good base, like farming for losing that kind of mentality and just starting to looking for a solution to the problem at hand. Um, so I think that gave me kind of an edge. Um, and you know, those
That's cool. Okay, I thought, yeah, because I mean, you're not. How old are you, Leo?
23.
Yeah. So you're like be so resilient and have that kind of like let's get it done mentality is something that you'd probably associate with much older people that had a lot of more experience on the field. Like, hey, I've been on construction site for 15 years. You need to find workarounds. That's life and so on. And you bring that attitude, and you're saying you picked it up from farm, which is fantastic. So tell me, I didn't want to open the farming topic because I wanted to make it more about like your woodwork work, but I think we have to do it justice and just explore it a little bit. Tell me a bit. What was the farming apprenticeship like? What was the week like there? What were you doing?
Yeah, I think it's pretty different than any other kind of apprenticeship you do because normally you live there, right? You live with the family. So I kind of left home when I was 15 and lived with some family I didn't know for a year and did that like 3 times, right?
So you go and live with like a family that have a farm.
Yeah,
Okay.
like when you do an apprenticeship on a farm, because yeah, it's really long hours. You start like 5:30 in the morning, five, and you're done maybe 7 or 6:30. And when there's something at night, like if livestock is ill or something, you have to go out and you have to look after them, right? So it's not a 9 to 5. It's really kind of different. And that was kind of interesting. My first year was nice. The second year, I changed places midway through because the first farm wasn't really we didn't really get along there great there, and I went to another farm that was just like my second family at that point because they really were amazing. And third year was good again. Yeah, you really live with the family, and it's kind of a different thing because your boss is also your roommate, so you can't really it's a different kind of dynamic. You have to be able to work together, and they have to kind of accept you as part of the family because you're gonna have difference in opinion or a fight once in a while, at least with me, and especially at that age, and you have to be able to work through that and keep on going. So I guess it's kind of a very different kind of a apprenticeship than you find elsewhere here, but yeah, I think it gave me a very good base. And it's also very broad. Like you have livestock, you deal with machineries, you have to fix and maintenance. You have plants you have to look after. So it's very diverse and really like that about it.
Whoa, sounds very cool. I didn't realize it was that you're living with the family and so on. But what's the first? So what's the onboarding week? Is there an onboarding week? Like, do you have like, okay, you go to a school and then after this, you're ready now to go to a farm and they decide which farm where they need you and so on, or what's that process like?
No, no. You have like a website you can go to where you see the farms who are taking apprentice, and then you call them and ask if you can come there for a week and work a little and look if you guys vibe. And if he says, yeah, like in my case, if he said, yeah, you can come. And so started working there, and in the beginning, you don't really aren't really independent at all. Like he shows you everything and does tasks with you, and um, yeah, over time you should be able to do those yourself, and you have 1 day of school a week where you kind of get a theoretical view on all that stuff, and yeah, I
Okay.
really liked it.
So
Yeah,
there is some theory involved too, where they're kind of explaining things to you from that aspect. Okay.
yeah, of course.
What regions, just out of curiosity, what region of Switzerland were you in?
All of Zurich. I was all in Zurich.
So like Zurich Oberland farms around this region.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that go into the French part of Switzerland. It's kind of bit of a different kind of agriculture. It's more mostly bigger, and also some of them are able to learn French, so that's great for them. I'm not going to be able to learn French, not despite how much I like to, but
Okay. And then the last bit about the farm, I know you went to Canada and worked on a farm there too, right? How did that come about and where were you?
yeah, after the apprenticeship, like most guys start working at home, right? Start working at home and start taking over the farm from their parents, or they do what I do and get a bit more experience and go abroad or somewhere, and they want to see how farming works in a bigger scale or just in a different country. And I went to a really big farm, like in Swiss terms, uh, which was, I don't know how much it would be in acres, but it was like 5,000 hectare of Greenland and then 8,000 hectare of crops. So completely unimaginable here, and that was kind of crazy, yeah. And like at the time, it seemed kind of normal, and it didn't seem like a big step. But looking back, I'm like, I was 18, 19, and I went somewhere where I didn't know anyone, and spent half a year there in the middle of nowhere. It was, yeah, it's kind of surreal to think back at it, but I would definitely do it again. It was really cool.
Nice. And what part of Canada were you in? Do you remember the state?
Yeah, it was Saskatchewan.
Okay, nice. Cool. Very cool. Like, I mean, just there alone, like it sounds like an amazing journey. And then like, yeah, then
Yeah,
that,
the people there are different too. Like the first day I arrived, there was a guy who worked at the farm whose name was Rob. And Rob, the first night I was there, was showing me his gun collection. He had like a room in his house that was stacked to the ceiling with guns and ammunition. And the next day we drove out to a place that was about 2 hours away from the farm in the middle of nowhere, and he was like, if you have a dispute with your neighbor out here, the cops are never gonna hear about it. I'm gonna bury that dude. I was like, I don't know him, and he drops the ball like that. It's kind of crazy.
you're like,
Uh,
right, thousands of miles away from home. I hope. How did you how did you end up in this farm? How did you find them? Like,
also through like an exchange program, they
okay,
often look for seasonal workers over there, and they know that like the people from Germany, Austria, and Switzerland are mostly very well educated when after apprenticeships, so they like to have workers from there. Also, they don't have to pay them that much because more of the experience as well that
yeah,
they want to have, and not because of the money they come for
very
that.
cool.
Yeah,
Very cool, man. That's cool that you had got the experience like from the Swiss scale to the Canadian scale, like huge. Cool. Like so, let's go back to the woodwork then again. Transitioning into like your apprenticeship. What was that process like when you started? So you're working on construction sites mostly now. Is that your what your week's like? Okay, but tell me about the start. Learning that process. I guess you already had a foundation on some woodwork, right? You've built something before. Then was there a lot of theory that you had to learn, or was it more about equipment safety, or what does it look like starting an apprenticeship there?
It's kind of the same as in farming. They in the beginning throw you a bit into cold water and show you tasks they want you to do and how you should do them. And over time, you're supposed to get a bit more independent. And at the point where I'm now, I kind of sometimes have to be in charge of other people. So I didn't really appreciate at that time how much energy goes into educating an apprentice who, I don't know, doesn't care to be there, or is just a bit, seems to me, slow, or whatever. And that takes a lot of energy out of your day. And I wasn't aware of that when I was in my apprenticeship. But but yeah, like right now I'm starting to take more bit more responsibility, which I like, but it's also, yeah, demanding, I guess.
Yeah, being a teacher, especially it depends on, I guess, who you're mentoring, right? Like if they don't have,
Mm.
maybe because your background is a bit different too, like where you had a passion for this stuff and then you went into it, then if you're just doing it as a means to an end, it's a bit different, right? For this from the guy.
Yes, some of the kids that are there, they just do it because they have to do something, and it's very different in like the quality of the work that some of the guys or girls. We also have like a couple of girls that are making apprenticeship in carpentry, um, where I am, in the quality which they are able to produce in the same amount of time they are there. And I always have to like remind myself that just because this one is not as fast or good as this one doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to do their part. But yeah, sometimes it's a bit hard.
Right, right. And you just finished your exams, well, in the summers it's gone this year, right? 2025. Um, what's the exam process like actually? Like, so is it a final like presentation or?
No, you have like a theoretical part, um, and also drawing part. Like you have to draw. That is too specific. I have no idea what that means in English, but you have to draw like parts of houses.
What's in Swiss German, like, or in German?
Well, one part of it is this Austragen. It's like a geometrical way how you lay down piece in a different perspective, so you can have it from looking from above, and then lay it down so you can actually produce it because it's not in the real length. Like
Okay.
like it's here like this, and now you lay it down, and so you know the real length of this piece. If you have a
Ah,
roof, for example.
for cutting it
No
out.
idea what the yeah,
Yeah,
no.
I don't know, but I'll add some images to the video of this so that will help people clarify
Okay.
a little bit. So
Yeah.
maybe you can send me some pictures of that.
And then there's the practical part, of course, which is very quick paced. You really have to work forward there. You have like 10 different things you have to do, like a little stair. You have a little roof that you have to do. It's all kind of proportionally shaped, so you can do it indoors, but it's the same thing as if you would do it on the big scale, just yeah, smaller, more handy. And yeah, you have to do like a deck, wall, all that stuff, and it all comes together in the end. Yeah.
Cool, cool. And one of the things you mentioned to me when we were like talking about doing this podcast, you said you like working with wood because it's more forgiving, like
Yeah.
than steel. Tell me a little bit about that, like, right? Like unpack that for me a little bit.
Mm, like if if we're in a house just made out of wood, if I fuck up once, there's a lot of things I can do to cover it up. But for example, with steel, I once worked in a barn with cows, where the pillars and stuff were made out of steel. To add something or take away something to make room for something new, it's just a very different thing. It's just also just a warm, very warm material. Really like to work with it.
Nice.
Feels.
And you mentioned also that every piece of wood is different, right? How do you approach that then when you're creating something like like it brings a certain amount of uncertainty in a way, like, right? Like you don't like, okay, this piece of wood, you don't know as you start working with it how it's gonna form in the end because it's not like 100% like carbon copy of the other pieces that you've worked with before. Do you find challenges with that, or do you embrace the difference, or?
No, it's well, it's like with the experience comes. um, the way more easy to start working with these different kinds of woods because of course you have different kinds of trees, different kind of densities in the wood from that, and also very specific geographical differences in the wood, like where it's grew. For example, if it grew on a hill, then the tree has to push so it comes vertically.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's like an angle to yeah, yeah.
yeah. And on the side where it has to push, we call that bogs, and it gets really hard there because the tree has to push to come straight up. And if you like work with that kind of wood, bogs, it's way harder. And if it dries out, it cracks. So you have to be aware of things like that, and there's like dozens more that you're able to work with that and have a sustainable product in the end.
And are these things that you deal with? Um, like, tell me about the wood that you get in work. Like, how does that arrive? Like, do you have a guy that shows up and like you guys order wood and you say like, oh, we need these types of planks and so on, or do you have a specific where is it sourced from?
At the old place where I worked, I'm pretty familiar with that because we had a lumber mill, a small one, and they bought the wood regionally from mainly Zurich and processed it there. And I also worked there for about 4 weeks, but didn't really like it there because it was very repetitive work. But it's really good to get kind of a base to understand where it comes from, I guess. But they only do like I guess you would say clean cuts. They don't glue it together. If you have bigger structures, you need to have like CLT. It's like cross laminated timber
Okay.
or things like that. They
And
don't do that.
do you have a specific type of wood that you like working with the most?
Like walnut. But
Walnut.
as a carpenter, you don't really work often with anything else. Uh, Fifth and tonne. I don't fur. I guess would
Okay.
that would be.
I'll find the names for those. Yeah. Um, why walnut?
I just love how it looks. It's warm. The table I'm sitting on right now, I made it for my parents, and it's one of walnuts. Just sticks out,
Nice.
and it's also kind of expensive, so you don't have it everywhere.
Okay. So it's more of a special item too. Nice. You told me that you like looking at furniture that was made decades ago and the understanding the handwork behind it. Is there a piece that sticks to your mind now when I mentioned this, where you say, "Oh, I remember looking at this table or this chair that was made by this person," or like, do you have an example that you could share with me, and then the kind of the thought process that you had behind it?
Yeah, like my friend has a table that has a lot of geometrical shapes cut out and filled in with different kinds of wood. And that table is like, must be at least 50 years old because his grandma bought it before that. And it just, if you look at those kind of things, I don't really know how you're able to make it that beautifully without like a CNC machine. And I really hope that I'm able to do things that other young carpenters look at in a couple of decades and are like, how did they do that without those kind of tools that we have now? But it's gets more and more seldom because it's not appreciated that much anymore. I completely get it. If you can go to IKEA and it's like a tenth or even less of the price than what you would pay for it if you would buy something from um woodworker from Switzerland or and it it just doesn't make sense. And probably in 10 years, you maybe gonna have a different opinion, want something else, and then you just can go to IKEA and get the new Björn or whatever it is. And yeah, but I really like to have things that I think will last for longer than that, I guess. We'll
Yeah.
see how what happens to this table, but
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting. I guess you also see it in farming, right? Like where we have mass farming, and then like which is great because it makes more food accessible to more people. But I think there's also then smaller scale niche farms where you have hand picked, hand grown products. So perhaps it's going to be the same for wood, right? I hope so, at least that there's always a place for that handmade, um, because it tells a story, like you said. I think like you have a connection. Like this piece was made by this person, and they made it by hand. I think there's still, at least from my side, there's definitely a huge appreciation for that.
Mhm.
But that's a good transition into tools. Like, what tools are you using now? Like, right, what are tools are that you say, okay, I can't imagine working without this tool now? Or what tools that you say, okay, this is a precision tool or a handmade tool that I like working with more?
Actually, right now at the firm I work at now, it's more a traditional approach. We do more things, way more things by hand than we used to do in the old place I did my apprenticeship at. Where I did my apprenticeship, we had a lot of very expensive, very new CNC machines that are able to do work that's in a amount of time and on a precision scale that I'm not going to be able to do that. Um, but I really like the traditional approach I take now because I guess if it makes financial sense for them to do it like that, I like to do it like that better, I think. Because it's more of I can look at the house and be like, I built that and wasn't made by CNC machines. But it's also cool to see where that goes and just have manual labor cut down and being able to build things faster. But yeah, I like the traditional approach more.
Okay. Um, why is your firm now more focused on using hand tools, or is that a decision that they've taken personally? Like I say, okay, we put more craft into our work, or
No, it's more the thing that it it makes sense at a certain scale to get those kind of machines. But if you're not like big enough or able to um, take all these parts and use it, those machines have to run every hour of the working days there, so they make financial sense. And we are just not able to or manufacture everything that comes out of a machine like that. So we make it by hand. I would guess it comes about down to the same, but we are just able to produce much less. But we are also a much smaller firm, so
yeah.
I don't really concern myself with the financial part of it, but
Okay, yeah.
I just do
Okay. No, it makes sense. That's a good explanation of it. Um, so tell me about the hand tools. Do you have a tool that you love working with the most, especially since you said like you like the warmth of the wood and so on? Do you feel there's a tool that brings you closer to the wood?
I guess. Like there's a Japanese saw, or at least that's what we call it. And it's only cuts in one direction. Like traditional saw that we use in Europe and America mostly cuts on both ways, like
Yeah.
pushing and pulling. And Japanese saw only saws by pulling. And it's just feels raw when you cut something down like that. But mostly we use power tools nowadays. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
But
why is it?
like yeah, sorry. The Japan, I would really like if I had to do something like working abroad, like in Canada on a farm. If I had to work abroad as a carpenter, I would definitely would like to go to Japan, but it doesn't seem that easy to get um like work over there as a white guy. They more seem like a bit restrictive when it comes to that. But they are definitely known when it comes to carpentry as one of the like nowadays it's probably more Central Europe like Germany, Switzerland, Austria, but in the past definitely was Japan. I mean, some of those temples stand for the couple hundred years and are still standing if one in one of the regions on the world where there's most earthquakes, right? And they're still standing, and that's because they were the first to make like joints that are stable on push and pull, like dovetails and stuff like that. So it's
Wow.
really interesting, and I would really like to go look at that sometime. Yeah.
That's cool. What the Japanese saw? Why is it only saw in one direction? Do you think? Is that more precision or is that just
Yeah, probably you're just able to. Yeah, I have no idea to be honest.
okay? No, I need to look into that. That sounds cool. But yeah, I know I've looked into a little bit of the passion the Japanese people have for the art of woodwork and how they. I think we talked about it briefly too, where they take pieces of wood and they merge it in with stone, where they won't they'll carve the wood to shape into the joint as with the stone rather than like actually making the stone flat or something. It's
Yeah.
very there's a specific name for it that I won't try to pronounce now. Okay, cool. Um, so if there's one like a craftsman, dead or alive, that you could work with or maybe shadow for a week or like a month, do you have someone that you like admire their work or look at what they do that inspires you or has inspired you?
Not like in historical terms, but there's a guy I worked with briefly a couple times in the old place. His name's Roger, and he's just a genius. I don't know what goes on in that head, but if I could shadow that dude for a couple of months, I would be really grateful. Because it's not just woodworking, he does everything. Like before I left, he built a machine that is able to like no one has ever built something like this before because there's no sense to it. But he made a drilling machine that's able to drill for about 3 meters into um a tree, like the whole length of the tree. Why would you do something like this? They did it because they thought it would be a cool idea to put electricity and water through those pillars and build them into the structure. He just built that drilling machine, which is a hell of a lot more work than you would think, because you can't just drill that. He had to make a specific kind of drill that he's able to blow or push a lot of air into, so the stuff in front, when you're like a meter into the wood, comes back out again, and then you have to have a vacuum there that gets it out again. So it's some Tony Stark shit or something like this, and that dude is really cool. Yeah, I would like to chat him.
Wood boring machine. Are you still in contact with him? Do you still talk to him or?
Not a lot though.
Okay. Okay. Cool. And yeah, sounds cool. And I'll need to get him on for a podcast. Nice, man. That's like I think that's the end of my questions. Really cool. Let's finish it with one last question. If there's someone that wanted to get into woodwork or wanted to explore this space, what would you recommend they do? Where do you start?
Um, well, when I was in school, we had a pretty good program where you could I don't know what you would call it in English, but just it's part of your education in Switzerland. I hope it's still that way in most places, but I think yeah, the it doesn't get taught a lot at school anymore. Where we had uh woodworking and sort of working with metal and stuff like that. So I really got into it in there. And yeah, also you can just like if you're 15 and looking for apprenticeship, you can just go to a place and ask if you can come there for a week. And well, every place that takes apprentice will be happy to have you. I guess it's really open that way in Switzerland. I don't know how it is in other places.
Maybe you need to take the same approach for Japan, just like pack a bag, hop on a flight, and just find someone that will teach you. The language might be the barrier, but with modern
Yeah,
tech,
for sure.
you can work. Leo, thanks so much, man. This was such a cool conversation. And yeah, um, definitely maybe we do a part two and explore the farming part a bit more. But for me, that was fantastic. Thanks a lot, mate.
For sure. Thank you, man.